The Empathecary Podcast is a Mind Garden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions. And here we are with another visit with you. It's Sandy over there. It's Todd over here. She is Sandy.
He is Todd.
All right, I almost messed that up. And this is the Sandy and Toddcast / Empathecary this week. I don't know.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
I'm not really sure where I'm going with that.
I was letting you go.
I'm not sure where I was going with that, to be honest. So,
yeah, this week a little diversion from our season 11, and we're going to do a little bit of an Empathecary podcast, episode 10. This is the 10th one we've done, Todd.
That's crazy. It's crazy to me.
I know it is, and so it's an important one. Dealing with unexpected health concerns, whether it's in your life or in someone that you care about, and how you handle that and the experiences that you have. And so I know you had a pretty rough week.
Yes. And I think it's created a better understanding for me to a certain degree. And I do want to talk about some of the stuff that happened this week. Not get into it really deeply, but there are a couple of things I do really want to talk about. The week kind of started off for me. I had a friend who committed suicide earlier this week. And it's a friend who is from another country, and I know that he's been struggling, but being so far away, I felt very, hopeless and helpless to do much for him in his circumstances. The thing that made it difficult was he told me he was doing it and then showed me a picture of the pills in his hand that he was taking, and then that was it. So it was pretty earth-shattering earlier this week. And then I had another friend tell me he was going to commit suicide. I'm like, what is going on? What's going on with this week? And luckily for me, I had the ability to be more helpful in his situation and stop that from happening. Then a friend of mine who lives next door, you've met her before a little bit.
Yes. Yep.
She had her car stolen, right? And so she's been having one of those situations where like everything that could go bad for her is going bad for her, and I just feel so bad. Like I wish that I could somehow blow that dark cloud away for her,
Yes. Yeah.
So she was going through a rough time. She got her car back as they do in these situations. She has a Hyundai, and Kias and Hyundais right now are some of the most stolen cars because apparently they're easily stolen. And in this state where I live in Wisconsin, it's a real problem. So she got hit with that. Then on top of all this, a coworker's sister passed away from dementia, which, somebody you work with, you care about them, you kind of know their life story. So I knew about his sister. It just was kind of expected. They didn't think that she was going to go this quickly. And then a good friend of mine had a stroke out of the blue. A very healthy, younger than us individual, had a stroke. And so I had to deal with that sadness and actually had a chance to go visit her yesterday, which was a very mind-blowing experience. Mm-hmm. Got through it. I'm glad I went. You and I talked about her situation a little bit. I think that we all feel that she's going to do well in her recovery because she's strong, and the stroke was one of those that she still has her faculties with her. There's just a lot of things she can't do right now, but I think a lot of that will come back to her.
Yeah, it's early. It's very early in the process. So it's very hard, especially, again, as an empath. Not only are you taking what quote unquote normal people would have to process, but you're processing it that much more. And just because it's not a member of your family or you yourself, doesn't mean that you're not feeling those emotions. And I know you went to visit her yesterday.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine what that would have been like, especially as strong of an empath as you are.
The experience at the hospital was, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. You don't expect someone to react. I don't expect anybody to react that way to seeing me,
Yeah.
It was kind of hard to fathom. But the weirdest thing about it was the anxiety that I felt the closer I got to the city. And here's the thing. I kind of went back and forth with this in my mind on the way there. I'm like, is this just social anxiety? Am I anxious because I'm going out among people? I don't think that's what it was, because I go out every day to work and I see people and I meet new people and I do all that. And I don't have any problem with that. Right.
Right.
This was the entire trip there. I was getting, I don't want to call them visions, but I was getting emotions and maybe kind of like a snapshot all the way down of all the places we passed that I paid attention to. I was seeing and experiencing things from many, 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 many years ago that wouldn't make sense.
Right.
And the closer we got to Madison, which is where she's from and where the hospital is, the crazier my anxiety got. And I'll tell you where it was the worst. And this is why I really think that there was something really going on here. As you come into the city, you are in the suburbs, and there's a lot of office buildings in one section, right? And they're banks, or they're, could be anything. Staffing offices, could be anything. But there's a lot of them. And it's almost like a business park, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would go past these places, and every time I'd pass a building, I would feel the stress and anxiety of the people who work there. Like, I could feel the energy of that building. And the closer I got, the more sick to my stomach I got. And it was the same. So for a while, I worked for a grocery company. And it was some of the most stressful work I've ever done in my life because of the company itself. And I still have occasionally nightmares of working there. That's how traumatic working there was. But it gave me a pit in my stomach. And that's the kind of feeling I was getting. So I was picking up on all this energy going into the city. Once we got more into the residential area and I was away from that, it was lessened.
Yeah.
Then I was feeling a little bit more of maybe the everyday norm for an individual person, right? Where there's some happiness and there's maybe some sadness and maybe some anxiety, but going past those workplaces where people are just really freaking stressed out for 40 plus hours a week, I was sick to my stomach.
And it's not just knowing that they are, it's feeling
it. It was the
that
feeling.
They are.
It was the feeling that I used to get when I went to work every day. The sick to your stomach, God, maybe I can get into an accident on the way to work and I won't have to go in. Like that. Have you ever had that feeling when you're driving into work? Like what would happen if I just drove off and hit this tree? Then I could have some time off.
Yep,
It's like,
yep.
That was what I was feeling. And I was like, holy crap, this is real.
I have had that experience.
Yeah.
Especially New York City is really,
I could not do it.
Really, really intense for me. I always have fun, but Dave and I, when we go down to the city, we do not go to the city to wander around. We go to the city for specific purposes.
Yeah.
Like a hockey game or a baseball game or, and we don't do a ton. we'll kind of drive around a little bit. He'll show me some things because Dave, the first 15 years of his life, he lived in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Before they moved to New Jersey and North Jersey. And I always, every time we leave the city, I literally heave this huge sigh of relief. And for years, I never understood why being there was that stressful to me. I mean, it is an amazing city. There's so many things to do. It's never ending. You could go every day for years and never see everything. But we never really, very, very rarely did we stay in the city. We would stay in like Jersey and drive in if we had things to do because it was just so much easier to do that. And I didn't realize until the last handful of years maybe why that was so. It's because you're feeling and taking in all of that energy, all of that chaotic energy, all of that anger and sadness and, you know, the homeless population, everything is coming in on you at once. And how much can you take? I completely can relate to your feelings in Madison because it's not just, knowing that people are stressed or miserable or, hospitals are very difficult for me.
This is the first time I've had that experience too. Like I got there and just parking, the hospital's in a very odd location. It's right like downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, where I'm from, Wisconsin, these smaller cities, the hospital's there and there's these huge parking lots and they're full and you find a spot and you walk in the place. That's not how this works.
Right.
This is you go into a parking situation and you go down to subterranean levels to park your vehicle and then you got to find your way out.
I don't know why parking garages affect me so badly, but parking garages, I don't know if it's feeling like I'm being caged in. The energy is caged. I have no idea, but it's very complicated. I can't deal with that complication, energy-wise, any of it. I cannot deal with it.
What is that? Like, I've never been that way before.
I don't know.
And I was down there with somebody and I basically said, now you're going to remember where the car is and you're going to, where we're going, right? Because I couldn't deal with it.
Even airport parking, like the parking garages at the airport.
Airports.
Oh my God. And I get so stressed being in, I don't understand. I used to think it was just the anticipation because I don't go to parking garages unless there's going to be something chaotic that I have to deal with. But I don't know. I think it's something about that and going underground. But we do know that even in the paranormal world, a lot of activity happens the closer to the ground that you get. The more, basements tend to have a lot of activity and stuff. I don't know. I can only attribute it to the energy. When I go to the hospital, I cry. It doesn't matter why I'm there. I cry because I'm picking up on stuff and people think I'm insane because I've got tears coming out of my eyes and I can barely, but that's how I get. If I go visit somebody in the hospital, it's very difficult for me. It's a little bit easier for me now because my mother was for years and years has been in and out of hospitals. And so as I progress more in understanding being an empath and all the other stuff, I've kind of learned how to shield myself a little bit from that.
Yeah.
But it's hard, Todd. It's very chaotic. It's very chaotic for me emotionally in a hospital, but it's also disorienting. I feel disoriented.
Correct. Yes.
In hospitals.
And this one was literally built piece by piece as people in the community were dying and selling their homes. This hospital would buy up this lot, that lot. When they had enough, they'd build another wing of the hospital. So it's really pieced together oddly.
Mm-hmm.
And if I did not have help, I would never have made it out alive. I would never have been able to figure my way out of the hospital or find my vehicle. And I'm not like that. This is a city that I've been to many times. It's a city that I really felt like I wanted to live in because it's big enough that it has some culture and some cool stuff, but it's not too big that it's, and I'm going, there's no way I could do this now. I could not do it. It's not the traffic. The traffic doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. It's a little chaotic, but I can make, you miss a turn, you change it. There was just something very different about my trip yesterday that and now I realize it was because I'm a stronger empath now than I was when I used to go there, once a month.
Okay, so it's funny that you said that because, we are so connected. And as you're speaking, I don't know if you could see it because we're on video with each other.
You were thinking, yes.
I'm doing this because I'm thinking he's leveled up.
I don't want to fucking level up it. This was what this is. I fucking hate it.
Because that's how I feel. As you're sitting there explaining that to me, I'm finishing your sentences in my head because I know. You've kind of leveled up in strength. You're a stronger empath. It's funny how things that you used to be able to do, you generally speaking, when you become stronger, you can't do, or you have to do differently, or you start to avoid because it is that much worse for you now. And we're not the only ones. I'm sure there's a gazillion people out there,
of course,
who are empaths, who it's sort of like my psychic abilities over the years, we talked about this, have leveled up. You can level up as an empath. You can, I don't know how to describe it. You're not absorbing it more. It's becoming stronger for you.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, because I was going to say, I'm wondering if the catalyst in it was the trauma of the events that occurred. Because I think for me, when COVID hit, that's right around when I started to level up with a lot of my abilities. When COVID hit and I was going through the whole job thing and, trying to figure out what was going on with my job and then eventually leaving my job and taking on something new. There was a whole lot of chaos in 2020 emotionally. And I'm just wondering if there was some trigger or catalyst in your current situation. You've been very stressed with work. You've been taking on a lot. And then this past week, just really everything that could possibly happen, like a worst nightmare situation, has happened, save for it happening to you yourself. I mean, when someone tells you that they're going to end their life from thousands upon thousands of miles away, and you know that you can't get there to stop it, and you feel that helpless, I do wonder if things like that are catalysts in this whole thing and sort of take you to another level of empath. It's interesting what chaos and trauma can do to someone who already has that kind of ability.
Yeah.
It's not fun, believe me. I live it every day, but I actually have tried to embrace it, these changes in my life, tried to embrace them to the point where I think that being angry about it or denying it does nothing but make it worse on myself. And so I just try to use it for good instead of evil, but that's what I think. I think that's what happened to you. How can you have been to Madison over and over and over again over the years and not feel that way?
Never felt it before, ever.
This situation, everything different.
Ugh, I freaking hate it.
I know.
And one of the things that scares me is, talking about dementia, one of the things that they say is that people who move toward dementia end up kind of shutting the world out. Like they don't want to go out. They don't want to experience new things, all that. And so there's a part of me going, well, this could be part of that too. Like I'm safe here. I'll just stay right where I'm at kind of thing. And my goodness, like, it's just a very scary, scary thing. So I wonder, we've talked a little bit about like people with dementia and whether or not maybe they had abilities that they didn't realize earlier in their life, and maybe that's why they closed themselves off a little bit from traveling and visiting and all that kind of stuff as well. I don't know.
I think it's just important to be cognizant of it. Because obviously awareness, I don't want this to sound cliche, but awareness is huge. Awareness of your own self, awareness of how you think and feel. I mean, I will say that I have become less social than I used to be. I'm actually enjoying it. I have thought of things like that though. And I actually like do those online, like quizzes and stuff to just sort of keep my brain active because I'm not out as much as I was and I'm not doing as much. And that's very important to do. And we really, we know about 1% of everything that goes on in the world, in our lives, in the world. We understand about 1% of it. The rest of it is a mystery. The rest of it we can't prove. We don't know. It's the unknown. We just don't know. And so I just feel like I'm not taking any chances. I'm going to be cognizant of what I feel, what I am, who I am, and what I want, and just be intentional about it. And so, just being cognizant of the fact that everything is a possibility and what can we do to make it easier and better for ourselves on the day-to-day.
I got an email a couple of weeks ago from a friend who said, does being an empath ever get any easier or better? Yeah, that's the exact kind of thing that I did just before I answered her. I kind of shot my head to the side a little bit, threw up my hand and meow. I don't know that it does. I think you just get used to it constantly changing. It
does. It changes. It evolves. And I will say this. When I first realized what was going on, at first I was like, oh, cool. I am something. And then I started to understand it more. And I started to, fill in the blanks and put the puzzle pieces together. And then it was a little bit harder. And it was a little bit more eye-opening. And it was a little more difficult because while I understood the reason behind a lot of the experiences in my life, now I was aware of it.
Yeah.
And it was like, that thing where like you buy a car and you never noticed how many of your kind of car there was on the road until you bought that car.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now that I know I'm an empath, now I'm noticing all of the people who come up to me randomly and tell me their life story. And there are a lot. Now I'm noticing all of the people who come to me for advice and who need to be comforted all the time. And there are a lot.
Too many. I need a vacation. I need a vacation from that shit.
I know. Too bad you can't like turn it on and off like a spigot. But I will say this. The more I started to accept it, it never goes away. But I think there are ways you can manage it at each level. I think there are ways. I've learned how to recognize my energy versus someone else's energy.
Yeah.
For the most part. Not all the time. Hence the reason why I go into a hospital and I cry. Hence the reason why I watch something about an animal being saved on TV and I go try to talk about it with Dave and I start crying. It happens. But I think I'm able to somewhat manage it now better than I did. But it never goes away. It's never easy. It's always a work in progress. It's always a battle. But it can be a little bit better. And I still roll my eyes because it will never go away. That's just who we are. That's who we are.
So one more question for you, and we want to wrap this up because you got to go and we got to wrap things up.
Yeah.
my physical vision is not good, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's never been great. I have shitty eyesight. But what I
laugh because me too.
But what I notice is I see less with my eyes than I do with the rest of my body. And it's almost as though the more I see with the rest of my body, the harder it is for me to see with my actual vision. Hence, are you going to remember where this car is parked? Are you going to remember what hallway we went down? Because in a certain respect yesterday, I was just getting to the destination I needed to get to in order to experience what I needed to experience. It wasn't transactional to me. It wasn't, okay, I've got to turn here. This is where I get in the parking lot. Oh, I go in here. None of that. If I had to get back to that same location today and park in the same spot and find the same room, there's no fucking way I would be able to do it. None.
I'm the same way. Do you know that when we go, like when we come visit you, when we fly anywhere and we park the car anywhere, we take pictures of where we are.
I did that yesterday.
We literally take pictures of, if there's a sign like row G, we take a picture of row G. We got lost in the Orlando Premium Outlets parking lot several years ago because we had a rental car. We only knew what kind of car it was, except there's a gazillion of them.
Right.
And every parking lot around this huge monstrosity of a premium outlets looks exactly the same. We thought we were going to have, we literally wandered for 30 minutes. That's when we started taking pictures. We take pictures of landmarks, anything we can, but it's not just in parking lots. You're right. Like, my eyesight has always been bad. Luckily, I've been able to, well, now I have the retinopathy, but luckily my whole life I've been able to get strong enough glasses that it's helped. But I will say this. I agree with you 100%. It's almost like my body and my being has compensated for the eyesight by making other things much more strong, much more clear. It's almost, they say when you're like, if you're blind, maybe your other senses sort of compensate for that.
I just feel it's more the other way, where I've gotten all these visions and feelings and experiences this way. So my actual vision is weaker now because I use it less. Yeah, sure. Because you are, and it is kind of along those same lines, because you don't have to use that anymore. Because you have these other things. They're compensating. You're compensating. So fucked up.
It is fucked up. It's completely fucked up. But I mean, there's not much we can do about it, so we just have to try and deal with it. And it's, easier said than done.
I don't want a showing. I don't want a coffin. Just go ahead and cremate me now. Cana Island, you just sneak me on the island, dump me in the trees.
Look, I'm always looking for an excuse to get back there. So just
Great. Well, let me help you out with that.
We can be together again at Cana Island.
Well, please don't bury yourself there. I don't think I could end up with eternity next to you by my favorite pine trees.
That would be so cool. Forever together.
Yeah,
forever
that'd be great.
Together. So anyway.
So a little deviation from our top topics this week to talk a little bit more about being an empath and dealing with that. But
timely and a very, very good topic. I'm sure plenty of us can relate. Plenty of us. So.
All right. So next week, we're going to talk about protecting yourself if you do investigations for paranormal research, correct?
Or on the day-to-day.
Okay.
That's protection on the day-to-day.
I love that, too.
All right. That's it.
All right. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.